and welcome back to Rupy's Break from Reality. So just behind me here is the Boston Tea Party site. This is where we lost America. All over tea and tax. When you read about it, it actually sounds a lot like the plot to the Phantom Menace. So as seems to be the way, wherever I seem to go in the world, whenever I want to see something, it's being worked on. So as you can see, it is open during construction, but this is the pub that inspired Cheers. So we've done Frasier in Seattle, we've got to do Cheers in Boston, obviously. So here we are inside the pub that inspired the Cheers bar. It doesn't actually look an awful lot like the bar, but still very cool. Here is George Washington. Well, a statue of George Washington, one of the founding fathers. It's quite an impressive statue. I've just come from the Cheers bar, so the camera work won't be as steady as normal. And welcome back to Rupy's Break from Reality. Tonight, I will mostly be here, Fenway Park, here in Boston, to watch the Boston Red Sox play baseball against the Houston Astros, no doubt. No less, even. Should be good fun. So the hostel has arranged a little walking tour of Harvard. They're having orientation there. I won't be joining them. But I can now officially say I've been to Harvard. This is Harvard Yard, by the way. And this is the statue of John Harvard, which says that the university was he founded the university in 1638. It's known as the Statue of Three Lies, because it's not John Harvard. He didn't found the university, and it wasn't founded in 1638. Impressive, huh? There you go. Finally made it to Harvard Law School. It's only taken me about 30 years. And welcome back to Rupy's Break from Reality. Well, I'm still in Boston, but yesterday was Harvard, and today is MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which, if Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting is to be believed, is one of the world's most prestigious technical schools. Who am I to argue? Oh, and Tony Stark went here as well. Nod to the glasses. I know. I wonder if I can find anyone around here to turn these into actual Edith glasses. Time to get asking. See? Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. So one of the things that I'm really enjoying about this place is seeing the names of some of my scientific heroes up on these buildings. Properly geek-tastic. In my element. So I've just been using this machine here, which analyses my typing to let me know whether I may develop Parkinson's or not. And this is all in the MIT Museum. I don't know how I did, because it wouldn't tell me the results. But I can type. I think that much we can establish. Whether I develop Parkinson's or not, time will tell, literally. So this is the Charles River. That's Boston behind me. I'm looking at Cambridge, and that is the world famous Harvard Bridge. And just over here are all the MIT buildings, and then a little way behind is Harvard itself. Now, the Harvard Bridge has a very interesting history. There are various markings on the bridge, and they're all down to a chap called Oliver Smoot, who came to MIT in 1958. We'll get some video clips of the markings, and then I'll explain what it's all about. But suffice to say, the man's responsible for a unit of measurement that's still used over here. Not necessarily an official SI unit, but nonetheless, still pretty cool. and welcome back to Rupy's Break from Reality, where I'm still in Boston. I'm at the Boston Naval Shipyard, and this behind me, this handsome little beast behind me, is the USS Constitution, otherwise known as Old Ironsides, because it was never defeated, and is, having been launched in 1797, the world's oldest boat that's still afloat. Rhymes. Poet, didn't even know it. So, why don't we have a look inside? And here's the rest of the harbour, and there's, you can just about make out Boston, or part of the Boston skyline behind us. Boston's a great city. I can't believe I've never been here before. It's awesome. Anyway, let's go and see what the Constitution's all about. As in this Constitution, not the paper one. So here's an interesting thing, because every day is a school day, and this, do you know, this is one of my favourite facts. So, the Americans refer to the bathroom as the head. I'm going to the head. I now know why. So, someone asked downstairs the question, where did the sailors go to the bathrooms? And the guy told us. So, you see that void between the prow of the ship and this bit? Whoops. That void used to have various planks with holes on it, and the sailors would take a perch, do the business, climb back over and get back on with their work, and so they'd have to ask permission to go to the head of the ship for a poo or a wee, etc. Probably just a poo, actually. And that's why Americans refer to the bathroom as I'm going to the head, because they'd be going to the head of the ship. Isn't that cool? I love this kind of stuff. Anyway, this is actually, you know, if we get away from all the scatological stuff, actually a very good exhibit. There you go, Boston in the background. There's the rest of the ship. And up there, that platform is about the size of half a tennis court. And soldiers, Marines in fact, would climb up there and would start taking shots at the enemy during battle. Can you imagine? All the way out there? 30, 40, 50 soldiers? It's crazy. It's crazy. As if war wasn't difficult enough already. Anyway, right, onward. And welcome back to Rupy's Break from Reality, where today we're doing the Freedom Trail here in Boston. You'll notice these cows around the place. They're delightful. I'm not entirely sure what they signify. I will find out. But they're much prettier than the ones that we have back in Milton Keynes. Although that's not that difficult. Anyway, Freedom Trail. Let's do it. Now, very usefully, there is a red brick trail that you can follow all the way around the Freedom Trail. And here we are, outside the first stop on the Freedom Trail, Massachusetts State House, the new one. Oh, and there's a cow. Isn't that pretty? On we go. So we're coming up to the second stop, which is the Granary Burial Ground. And that's one of the official tours. But you know, I'm doing it by myself. As with so many things. And here's the old City Hall. And that's Benjamin Franklin. He of bifocals fame, amongst other things, which I may have said before, depending on how I edit this together. But here is the old City Hall. It's an impressive building. This is the old State House. We've seen the new State House. This was the old one, which is now a museum and, rather amusingly, an underground station. See, that's what would happen to Buckingham Palace. That's not a good thing. And this rather quaint building behind me is Paul Revere's house. Not now, but used to be. Now it's a museum. The Old North Church. This is the Cops Hill Burial Ground, where many of the participants of the Boston Tea Party are laid to rest. All in the name of taxation and representation, or making sure that there's no taxation without any representation, and tea. There, across the water, is where we were, where I was earlier. So there's the USS Constitution.